Hello and welcome to the Unfiltered Experience with Tara and Louisa.
We are two girls who speak the truth about the struggle of never feeling enough whilst growing up in a world of filters and comparison.
Here we will have raw, relatable and authentic conversations to empower you on your path to self-development.
Come with us on the journey of unlearning. Welcome back to, I don't even know what episode number we're up to, but today we are going to tell you guys some stories about our psychic experiences.
Yes, Louisa's just had a really big one, so we thought this is a fitting subject to talk about, given that she's just gotten some cold hard evidence about this psychic being real.
Yeah, so we'll go through our stories, and then if you have any, please send us to them because we'd love to hear about it.
And can I just start by saying, I was so skeptical on psychics for a long time. My mum introduced me to that realm of spirituality when I was younger, and she'd had some really positive, undeniable experiences, and I didn't for a long time. There was a long time where I would see certain psychics and they just were so off the mark. I got one psychic telling me that my boyfriend that I knew 100,000% was cheating on me. She's like, no, he's faithful to you. And I was like, okay. So just if you're wary or good, I was the exact same. You just got to find the right one.
Yeah, you have to find the right one. My first experience with a psychic was absolutely groundbreaking. So I think it built this belief that, okay, people have this ability that maybe I don't have. And she was blind, so never had sight. And the way I made sense of it with her was okay, so she's never had sight, so she's picked up on this other sense that maybe you and I don't have because we rely on sight, where she can feel energy. And that's a language. And yeah, anyway, we'll go into that later. But should we start with my experience number one?
Yeah, your most recent.
So I went to this psychic in Western Australia with my sister over the summer, and this guy was very much about energy healing and karmic connection healing. And I went with my sister, and halfway through the session, he goes, I don't know whether to say this or not. It's a bit awkward when I get information that maybe you guys don't have, but do one of you know that you have fertility issues?
Wow.
And my stomach sank because my sisters had children, and he looked at her and said, you've absolutely got no issues with your fertility, but Louisa, you're operating at a 50%. And it was weird because recently, I've gone through a contraception journey where I've had to get off the pill, and I was on the pill for 13 years, and it turns out that the pill was really toxic for me because I get migraines with auras, which means I have a 9-fold increased chance of a stroke. Wow. Which was great that I was on that for 13 years. Anyway.
Negligence 101.
Yeah. And and I said, oh, look, I've just gotten off this contraception. Is it something to do with that? And he clarified with my spiritual team that was a good move, that I'd been on something for a long period of time, which I didn't give him that information. I'd been on something for a long period of time, and I really, it was not good for my health, and that I needed to get off it, but I still need to go and check out my fertility, and, it's an easy fix. So I go to my doctor and I say to my doctor, I just want to check out my fertility. I want to check how things are going. And I do this ovarian reserve test, and I got the results on Monday, and he was right. My test is extremely low. I have little to no ovarian reserve, and I've never had a child. And so now I'm going on this journey of understanding what's going on with my body, getting off birth control, doing some tests then and seeing how I am, all because of that conversation.
Wow. Groundbreaking, right? That is just, it's
what?
You can't fucking script that.
Yeah.
It's it just, wow. Sometimes when I hear that stuff, I just think, what the actual fuck?
No, when I got the results, it's funny, I went into the doctor and he was like, why are you testing your fertility? Because he knows I don't want to get pregnant yet. And I ended up having to tell him, which is quite embarrassing when you're telling
By
a
the
GP.
way, I saw a psychic
Yeah.
and he told me I should.
He's as scientific as they come, and I'm rocking in there with my psychic reading.
So funny.
And he was like, but at the beginning he was a bit skeptical, and then he opened the results, and by the end of the session he was like, so what exactly did the psychic say? Like, he was like, give me some more information
The
here.
psychic was spot on, doll.
So yeah, that was really interesting. Another psychic story that I have, which was my very first psychic experience. My friend wanted to go to this psychic, except she didn't have a car, and I had a car. So I got in the car and like drove out to like this suburb I'd never been before. And she had no idea of my name. She had no idea about, you know, that I was really even coming. And I'd picked up my friend who'd been partying a lot at this time, and she was on a bender. And, you know, I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, is she going to be able to tell that my friend's on a bender? We get to the front door and she was completely blind. She was there with her dog. And she instantly said, one of you is on drugs. Like, I can tell one of you is on drugs, and I don't know if I'll be able to read you. Can you please go to the car?
Was that you that was on drugs?
No, my
it was
friend.
her, right.
My friend. So she went to the car. I go in and she goes, who's Mark? I'm like, that's my brother's name. I'm like, Mark's my brother. She's like, oh, he is going to have a career change, and I need you to tell him that it's the right decision. 3 years later, my brother changed careers to become a real estate agent and rang me and was like, what did the psychic say?
Oh
like,
my God.
what happened? In that appointment, she also said to me, like, at the time, like, I was in a new relationship, and my ex-boyfriend, who had darker skin, was going through court. And she goes literally straight away to me, your ex-partner is going through court. He's got dark skin, like, knew all his details. And she said to me, oh, you're going to move overseas. She said to me she thought I'd moved to like LA or something. But what ended up happening was I moved to Thailand and Portugal, and she got that right as well. And then years and years and years later, like, I got into recovery. That was like well and truly before like my addiction took off. I saw her again in recovery, actually in lockdown over the phone, because I wanted some clarity around leaving some relationships in my life and like whether I was on the right track. And I think like anyone seeing a psychic, like, that can often be the reward, is like reassurance about decision making.
For sure.
And she said to me, and this is like, I've never really shared this on the pod, but she goes to me, who's that guy with his arms around your neck? And I was like, no one knows, no one was there. It's not on Facebook. Like,
nobody knew the extent of the physical abuse that you went through.
Yeah, like
in that relationship.
Well, yeah, and like, especially not this woman in like the northern suburbs that I'm speaking to on the phone. Like, it was like really like, oh my God, like, this is someone I need to take really seriously.
No, that brings like tears to my eyes. Like, I
was like, oh my God. I was like, yep, continue. I had photos of the people that I was sort of struggling with and wanted some clarity around. I had photos of family members as well, and, you know, things that I just wanted answers to. And I came to this photo of this guy. This friend was very much clean and in recovery and doing well and whatever. And she said to me, he's going to look at like court or jail time. And at the time I was like, absolutely not. Like, this,
he's like the straight A, like,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, like golden good boy. Yeah.
And then 2 years later, or actually probably would have been 18 months later after that,
it unraveled.
It all unraveled that he was,
a predator.
A predator.
Yeah. And he went to court and skillfully avoided jail, like, awfully. Yeah.
And I was completely dumbfounded by that, because I thought, she's got that wrong.
Yeah. That can't be right.
And one thing I will say, which is amazing about her, that I find really admirable, and I listen to podcasts from psychic mediums on Gabby Bernstein's podcast with Rebecca Rosen, and she talks about how, like, it's not a psychic's job to like bring you negativity and like tell you negative things. And I think there can be a lot of stigma around, oh, you go to a psychic, what if they say you're going to die, blah, 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 blah. And she talks about how, like, you need to stay away from that. Like, you need to go towards people that are, like, going to empower you or lift you up or, like, tell you positive things, because, like, our fate is up to us.
Yeah. Can I just say, though, I have been to a psychic that told me I was going to die.
Thanks.
But not in the sense of what you think. So basically she did a reading and she pulled out like the death card. And she said to me, she's like, this doesn't mean... Rip. She said, this doesn't mean you're going to die. She's like, I can see your future. She said, but there is something that can happen tonight that will put you at risk or put you at danger. And at the time I was staying with my mum's cousin who was just like a family member. And we were basically going back to his house and staying there for the night, having dinner in. We planned to order pizza and stay there. And that was it. So when she said to me something really dangerous is going to happen to you tonight, I just thought, how the fuck would you know? Like, I'm literally going home. And lo and behold, at 3 a.m., I wake up to my ex-boyfriend calling me saying, you need to come here, la, la, la. And I, at the time, I was in a dark place and I'd taken a significant amount of sleeping pills. And he's calling me saying like, I need you and I need you to come here right now. And so I grabbed my mom's car keys and I went out the front door to drive to him. And then it hit me. And I was like, she told me not to leave the house tonight. And here I was questioning her saying, what are you talking about? Nothing's going to happen to me. No. And I was like heavily sedated, about to drive about an hour to see my ex-boyfriend. And that's when I turned around and went, hell no. I was like, she told me not to leave the house and so I'm not coming. And it was excruciating because I had a lot of attachment to him. So to say no was really fucking hard. But I was like, no, like she put out the death card. I'm not doing it. And that's when I thought maybe they can foresee stuff that if I take that action, this might happen.
The options.
Yeah, like the options. And so that was when I became more open to, sometimes they may not get it right initially, but if I was to take some course of my life, like that might be the case. And another experience that I had with this was like my mum, like the psychic ratting me out to my mum.
Oh my God.
So my childhood was really colourful and I've never really like openly shared this on the potty, but like I fell into like severe drug addiction and for a long while I kept it quite separate from my family, like quite a secret, and my partner at the time and I were using together, and so we would just be with each other and no one would really know what we were doing. And my mum sat me down one night and played a recording from a psychic, and the psychic said, your daughter is smoking ice and taking sleeping pills at nighttime. And I was like, that fucking bitch.
She's ratted me out.
She's just ratted me out. And I literally listened to my mum being like, oh, really? And I was like, fuck. And that was when I was like, she's right. Like, she ain't got that wrong.
I'm at rock bottom.
Yeah. So it was really interesting.
Well, this one psychic that I was saying that like is really... like I admire the way she navigated my ex relationship. So I went to her twice. The first time I was with a guy, and every time I've been with a guy up until like I got semi-well, I thought I was going to marry them because that's what you do when you're
of course
naive.
You're in love. Yeah.
And they're toxic. And she always navigated those questions like in a really considerate way. Like I showed her, the first guy I was dating, and I was so attached to us getting married because he was moving overseas, and I was like, am I going to be okay if he leaves? Like, la, la, la. And she was like, I can't see marriage, but I can see you guys like being very happy together. And so that was enough of what I needed at that time to sort of leave the door open for possibility. And now I'm like, why would I have wanted to marry him? And then my ex-partner in recovery, I did the same thing, like looking for reassurance. I was really struggling in that relationship, but also was very attached to the outcome. And she said to me, you guys have the potential to be very happy together.
The potential keyword.
The potential to be very happy together. And so at the time, I was like hanging on to that. Yeah. I was like, yep, see, we're going to be okay. And then she said, but do not move in with him. And it's funny because like he ended up relapsing, and poor guy. But some stuff happened at their house. And it's funny, like she can see that. And one thing, oh my God, that was super scary. So he was involved with some really horrible people, like when he was younger. And she said to me, like, who is this guy with the shaved head?
Yes.
Like, he needs to stay away from this guy with the shaved head. And like, my partner at the time was like pretty skeptical about my psychic appointment.
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, like, she told me for you to stay away from the guy with the shaved head. And he was like,
He knew
exactly who she was talking about.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
So scary. That actually similar thing happened to a guy that I was seeing, which I'll tell the story about our psychic experience, but she had told him something very similar and described a person and a name and said that they'd been to his house, and days later he had like wet footprints around the decking of his house, and nobody was home. And that was when he was like going back to her. And so she was actually really funny. So she had stopped us from being able to record or film or take notes about anything that had happened or she'd said in the session, because she had said to someone, I know you're having an affair. And their partner listened to the recording and then knocked on her door and was like, tell me everything you know.
Oh, no.
And she's like, no, I'm not a marriage counselor.
Yeah.
Like, so from now on, you're not allowed to record. And so backtracking a little bit, I had said to this guy, he was open to the idea. And I said, you know, my mum's had some really positive experiences, and I'll actually share one of the experiences my mum had. So my mum had an experience where she had been to this psychic, and the psychic had said to her, I can see your friend having a car accident with a baby in a yellow car. And my mum's like, I don't know anyone with a baby in a yellow car, like just couldn't put it together. And then a couple of months later, her best friend bought this little yellow Toyota Focus or whatever it was. Little yellow Ford Focus. And then a couple of weeks after that, she crashed the car. And my mum was like, oh my God, like this psychic said that my friend was going to crash with a baby in a yellow car. And she's like, funny though, like she doesn't have a baby. And then a couple of weeks later, she found out she was pregnant. And I was like, what the fuck? So I sent my friend to go and see this woman. And I said, go and see her. If you want to have an experience, I haven't had an experience like my mum, but she has. So go and see her. And so he goes, he has his time, and he loved it. He didn't really tell me too much, or I can't really remember what happened for him. But anyway, a couple of months later, I was like, I actually want to go and see her. And at this time, we had been seeing each other and nobody really knew about it. Neither of us even had each other on Facebook because we didn't have social media. And I'm sitting there and she goes, normally I would never breach privacy and confidentiality because I've had X, Y, and Z happen in the past of people rocking up here and wanting answers. She goes, but this guy you're seeing, did I meet him recently? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, yes, I sent him here.
Wow.
She's like, I knew it. She's like, I saw him in your reading. And I'm like, sure, I just saw him a couple of months ago. I know this person.
Wow.
And she knew that we'd been seeing each other. And I just thought, God, like, isn't that just phenomenal? Like, so crazy.
Oh my God, no, that reminds me of a story recently with this same psychic in Western Australia. So I did a session with my sister, and then like 3 days later, my partner did a really long one with him. And, you know, he did his whole process and whatever. And then we got back home. It was my partner's recovery milestone. And, you know, I went and bought him a gift, as you do. And I'm like going around the shop, and I'm like in this crystal store, like looking around, like, can't find a crystal that I like, and I like kept going back to this one box with like sodalite, and I've never bought sodalite before, never even really considered it, like, and I just kept going back there. Anyway, I ended up buying the sodalite, and I found like a book as well or something, and I give it to my partner, and he was like, wait, did I tell you about sodalite? Like, is that why you bought it for me? I was like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, oh my God, like the psychic in WA literally told me to only get sodalite around me.
Oh my God.
Like, and to only buy sodalite, and you've just randomly bought me sodalite. And I had no idea.
That is so weird.
How
but
wild.
I feel like when you're spiritually connected to somebody, you pick up on that stuff.
Yeah, no,
He was so cool.
He was very positive about our relationship, and that's what I wanted to say, like as a nice little sort of tying it up in a nice neat bow. So in these relationships that I was in the past, I was like constantly seeking like reassurance from psychics. And then at the beginning of my relationship with my current partner, we were away in Sassafras in Mount Dandenong, and we went and saw, like, just by chance, we're like, let's book in like a reading. And the guy was like so positive about our relationship and said that like it was very much like sent from like God, our relationship and our matching, and that like we're meant to be together. And I also had like a kinesiologist say that like our astrology matches up in a way that's like soulmateship. And like obviously I believe that we have multiple soulmates in a lifetime and you can sort of choose and pick who you want to be with. But yeah, and I thought, wow, like it's funny when you don't go searching because you know. Yeah. And whereas in the past I'd like really gone searching for the answer that it was the right relationship. And then like I was so anxious before he went to his one because I have like anxious thoughts and I always think worst case scenario. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, the guy's going to think that I'm like not a good person or something because I've like been
literally
insecure.
an angel.
Oh, it's just my own internalized shame. Yeah. And he was like so positive about our relationship and was like saying how, you know, we're on here sort of thing, and that like he actually said that my partner liked me more than I liked him, and I was like, sick.
We love that.
I mean,
that is necessary for a successful relationship.
It was like perfect. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. I actually had a psychic reading done probably less than 6 months ago, so it'll be good to check in soon and follow up on some of the things that she said, because she was really, really good at describing the person who had came through in the reading to tell her sort of my future, which it had been my grandma. And she described her perfectly, like described exactly what she looked like and her mannerisms and stuff. So it'd be really cool to see what kind of happens and check in at a later date.
No, 100%. And for anyone that's open to the idea, give it a go.
Totally. Just know that I was so skeptical. But hearing it happen for others helped me believe that it would happen for me.
And I think you also have to take things with a grain of salt.
Totally.
Like you can choose to resonate with something and you can also choose to leave it. Like it was really important for me not to get an answer from a psychic around those relationships. But she did give me an answer on the ones I'd already made a decision on. So there was friendships at the time that I'd left, and she reaffirmed that that was the right call for me. But in terms of making a decision moving forward, I actually once gave a psychic, where I went to the Mind Body Spirit Festival with you, and I literally gave her the answer to my future. I was like, do I go into fashion or do I go into acting? Yeah. And she said, go into fashion. Yeah. And I followed that whole thing and look what happened.
Yeah. Donuts.
Nothing. I was like, no, this is hell.
No, I've been told some wild shit. But then I think, you know, like different stuff happens in the course of your life and then you choose and then you get a new story, you know, like you get a new perspective. So the psychic that I saw recently definitely said that there were 3 children for me if I wanted them. So I have one of them. So that's cute. I had no doubt about that, which was really reassuring.
Oh my God, I'm just thinking. So when my partner and I went to that one in Dandenong, he said to me, you are going to have a fertility scare. Oh. As in, like, I think he thought I was going to have, like, a pregnancy scare. And he was like, be careful because I know you don't want to have children yet.
Wow.
And now here we are, but it's like not exactly the way he thought it would go down.
But it was something on that path.
He also knew Rory and I would move in together, which is obvious. But like at the time we were very much like independent, I don't need you vibes. So that was cute.
So funny. I just had this like flashback to those Snapchat filters and it's like, who will you marry?
Oh my God.
And I remember when my partner and I just started seeing each other. So his actual name starts with an E, but his abbreviated name starts with an M. And when it said, who will you marry? And it comes up with an E, and in my face is like disappointed. And then I'm like, oh my God, like,
oh my God, true. That's right.
I was like, no, it's going to be him. And like, Now we're getting married.
And now we're on your Snapchat.
Yeah, I was like, Snapchat's my little psychic.
Psychic Snapchat.
Yeah, because I was thinking, who the fuck's name starts with an E other than his name? I was like, that is so weird.
Yeah, we're on here.
Yeah.
And we are.
And we actually are.
Anyway, we'll leave you with that. Please send us, though, any psychic stories that you have, and we can always share them on the pod and do an episode of other people's stories.
Please.
Because we'd love to hear it.
We'd love to read them out too. Like, I'd love to hear other people's. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So please
cool.
do send that through. And if you love the episode, send us a lovely review.
Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.